when Eddie Condon came over. Is anybody here familiar with Eddie Condon? Blank faces. He was a West Coast musician. He played a banjo-strung guitar. He wasn't outstanding on it, but his great ability was to get together musicians who could create a wonderful sound. And he'd written a book called, we call it Music. Wonderful man. A total piss artist. He was a raving alcoholic. And his friend Wild Bill Davison was even more so. I've got a wonderful picture of them both holding a bottle of whiskey in their hero. And he was so famous, was Eddie Condon, that the Mayor of Bradford laid on a civic reception for him. And these fellas are on 2 bottles of scotch a day. And at this do, they had fig Newtons and cups of tea, which went down really badly. And the mayor's wife came up to Wild Bill, a wonderful cornet player, showed him a plate on which the sandwiches and the fig Newtons had been laid, and said, "You see this motto, this Latin motto, Mr. Davison? Do you know what it says?" He said, "Give me a minute, Lord, I'll tell you." "Yeah," he said, all the whores in Bradford go to Leeds to do business." Fig Newtons, come on. I was at Alexis Corner's flat once at a party, and Sonny Terry and Brownie McGee were playing, and they had a break for a couple of drinks, and they started up again, and Brownie started twanging his guitar, and he said to oh God, his name escapes me. He was in the Viper Skiffle group. He said, "Tell Sonny it's key of C or whatever." So he went to blind Sonny Terry and said, "It's key of C, Sonny." He said, "I don't need no white boy to tell me the code." Oh, there's a lot of lovely stories. Strangely enough, Miles Davis spoke like that because one night he was sitting outside a jazz club on the back steps having a smoke because he was into the heavy stuff. And a copper came by, a white copper, and gave him some lip, which they do automatically in America. And Miles Davis, who came from a very middle-class, educated family, wasn't going to stand for that shit. So he mouthed him back and the copper smashed him in the throat with a nightstick and broke his vocal cords, which is why he talked like that and why he didn't like Whitey. Yeah. I photographed him and he was very, very uncooperative. But and unfortunately I fogged the film when I was developing it. Yeah, so I don't have any pictures of him. But in those days, they didn't dress like freaks like this. You know, they dressed in dinner suits with bow ties. And he was quite the handsomest man I've ever seen, wasn't he? He had an exquisite face. And he was bisexual. I could have fancied him myself. Oh dear me.
Can I ask a question? You said that when you were in Egypt, the photograph that you took of the woman, you knew that you'd done an amazing photograph, and that's what you wanted to do, and there was no turning back. Has there been another photograph that you've taken when you've been working with the jazz musicians that's given you that feeling?
When I went to Manchester to photograph Big Bill, it was before motorways. Bob Barclay, the leader of the Yorkshire Jazz Band, he had a big ex-army van that he used to schlep the musicians about in. We went over because he knew Big Bill. It meant nothing to me. I'd had the contract for photographing the stars at the Empire Theatre in Leeds for this little Jewish company I used to work for. I used to photograph babies, knocking on doors, photographing babies, and waiting outside baby clinics to photograph babies, you know, coming out of the baby clinic after they're being weighed. And he schlepped us over to Manchester, and we got a little bit chicker with Bill in the dressing room. And on the way back, outside Batley, Bob Barclay fell asleep, and the car went through a hedge and rolled over several times, and I got a broken neck. And I was paralysed for 5 months in hospital. And Bill sent me a lovely basket of fruit and a telegram. And that's my precious moment. I ought to say here and now, I don't like music. And I never listened to jazz, ever. I had meningitis in 1935, which left me stone deaf at this side and tone deaf at that side. And I don't even recognise what instruments play. I can hear it, but I don't know whether it's a violin or a trumpet or a trombone. So basically I don't like music, I don't like noise, and I've absolutely no interest in jazz. Well, I like photography. I love the lifestyle, as William has pointed out. I love the people, I adore the people. And fetching and carrying Moroccan woodbines for Louis Armstrong. Come on, you know, that's a step up in the world for a kid from the Irish ghetto in Leeds, isn't it? No, I love the people, and I love taking photographs. But I never, when I was photographing them, I never listened to them. You can't, you're looking, you're not listening. I took Sonny and Brownie to the Intrepid Fox in Soho, and the landlord gave us a private room upstairs. There was only 6 of us. We spent all afternoon supping whiskey, and Sonny and Terry playing just to 3 or 4 people. And if somebody said, what were they singing, I have the faintest idea. I'm taking pictures. I'm not listening.